I really like when a band can take a little thing, little lick, little melody, and it's not just an afterthought or one part of the intro. It's actually kind of reprised many different ways throughout this song. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Low End University. Elephant March is from Belvedere's sixth studio album, Hindsight is the Sixth Sense, released in 2021. It's not every day we do fairly new songs here on the channel, but this was the top voted track last month over on Patreon, and they always pick them well, so I'm excited to hear it. But I can't find a ton of information on this album, nor the band really, but they are a Canadian punk band formed in 1995 and hail from Calgary and Edmonton specifically. And I have seen the name Belvedere pop up very often here in the YouTube comments, and I'm sure it's for a good reason. So without further ado, let's get right into it. This is Elephant March from Belvedere. Okay. Whoa, very modern sounding production. I think what threw me off is sort of the tonal vibe kind of set here. Very blues scale heavy, a lot of flat five, a lot of little chromaticism in the leads. It's kind of playful, but it's still got a heavy kind of technical metal edge. You know, they're from Canada. I like a lot of Canadian bands. I've discovered a lot of Canadian bands doing this channel, so this is falling right into the sound of Canadian bands just being badass. So all good stuff. Good gritty bass tone. That was kind of a lot to take in. Really riff heavy. Down here in D, again, really relying on that D blues scale to outline the riff. I'm going to go back and kind of just let it get to where we were. Soak that in one more time. How cool. Yeah. Just real bluesy, but then they add even more chromaticism kind of in the riff, and the guitar leads follow it. I don't know, it just gives me sort of a, like, where is it going to land? Or is it going to kind of stay in this, I don't want to say uncomfortable, but, you know, chromaticism, flat fives, they add tension. But it's done in kind of a playful way here, but it's still heavy. Very interesting. Yeah. Little guitar lead there. I don't know, it's just kind of a cool setup. Take the vocals. Cool progression there in the chorus. They kind of went to that diminished sound. So we're largely based around D minor. The D blues scale is a minor scale technically. So it lives here. In this chorus, they were kind of going down by half steps, which is like a longer version of all the chromaticism they've been setting up. So I really like that songwriting element there. Da 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 da. Even in the riff. Then the chorus just kind of elongated that same feel. I don't know if it went 4 steps, but I definitely heard that diminish, so. And I think it just went to the 6th there. Let me hear that part again. I just like all the playing around they're doing with that tonality. Again, I really dig these vocals. Woo! It's almost as if you took like that little soundtrack that's been around forever, dun, 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 and made it super heavy. And that's not a dig. It's a cool way to play with that sound that's a bit whimsical, but in this heavier context, and then kind of lean into those flat fives and those kind of diminished sounds to give it more of a darker edge. Almost has a bit of a newer Avenged Sevenfold sound. And I know I did one of their songs recently. I've not heard any of the early stuff from that band, but a few of their newer songs, and I really liked what I heard. But just good stuff. Good kind of heady riff writing, especially this real broken up syncopated section here. I want to hear that again. Right here. Still largely in D minor, but just kind of going up and down the scale in these little broken up. That's a fun riff. Ooh, cool was the bass mimicking that little chromatic lead. Oh, it's kind of hard to hear. It's blended really well. I think it's just kind of going. But it still kind of went up and supported it, just, you know, giving a nod to that little layer. Like that. Nice major 5. Back to the 1. Cool. There's that kind of C-sharp diminished thing there. You know, it's really playing with that kind of harmonic minor sound. Has a bit of that symphonic metal characteristic, not necessarily in the riffing, because it's a bit more technical, but it's got all the like tension and resolve you'd want for those big, impactful transitions, big chorus and everything. Right here. Down a half step. The C. Down to the 6. Nice. Okay, little bass feature there. I want to talk about this guitar solo. Again, playing with that kind of chromatic lick, it's almost become like a theme that's represented this whole piece. I really like when a band can take a little thing, little lick, little melody, and it's not just an afterthought or one part of the intro. It's actually kind of reprised many different ways throughout this song. And if you go back and watch when I first listened to the song, I was kind of like, you know, it had that jarring kind of atonal sound a bit. Now it's sounding really natural because of the way they've brought back just that simple sort of. They've done it in the solo. That solo was kind of chock full of that lick and then got real sweepy and shreddy. Then they did it in the chorus, kind of in this elongated walking down in half steps. The bass, I think, kind of went up and just nodded at it, but all around they've leaned into this theme really heavily, and it's kind of defined the song. It's grown on me very quickly in 2 minutes. So I like the songwriting there. Sounds like we're getting into a bass feature here, kind of a modern metal tone. So let's see what we're working with. Very nice. Hear the solo one more. Right there. All right.
It feels very much like a wall. It feels
Okay, that's really cool. This is sort of the verse riff that originally is really broken up. Dun, 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 dun. Something like that. Bass player's kind of straightening it out here, which is another reprise of something you've already heard. And if you're listening to this song, you're kind of like, that sounds a bit familiar, but it's great, again, when bands can resourcefully reuse something and just change it a little bit. Different variation keeps a sense of familiarity and flow and pacing throughout the song instead of just, he could have gone into just some new riff here. And that would have been pretty cool too. I listen to a lot of progressive metal stuff that changes riffs every 30 seconds. I'm big into that if it's done well. But for a song like this, it's keeping that sense of familiarity in the way they reuse these motifs, but change them just slightly. So it technically is a new section, but it's just a different rhythm of what was going on earlier in the verse. So now he's kind of, and I should have been using a pick, kind of straightening this thing out. Kind of like that, almost like a fast walking bass line in a way. Hear that again.
It feels very much like a tree. It feels very much like a road.
Starts kind of on the upbeat, I think. Cool. Well, that's a fantastic introduction into another band that's really up my alley. I've never heard of Belvedere aside seeing requests, but I feel like our Patreon community is kind of getting the memo that I really like technical metal and come from the progressive world. And I've really fallen in love with bands like Propagandhi, A Wilhelm Scream, and many others. And these guys being Canadian too, I'm sure they're in that vein. I really like what I heard. I'm not sure why I went right into the Avenged Sevenfold comparison, more on the vocal end, but this had a lot of like Trivium type riffs too. Trivium is a very important band to me, one of the first metal bands I really latched onto from the modern scene. But not to get too caught up in labeling them with other bands. I always hated when people did that with my bands, but it's just human nature. Sometimes you hear a band and it reminds you of things you like about other bands. So I'm really into what I heard. I think the most standout thing about this track is the really kind of bold, creative phrasing and note choices. This could have been a really D minor-ish, thrashy, technical metal song that's 3 minutes and had a great chorus, but they were really bold, playing with the chromaticism, actually making it a defining kind of hallmark of the song. And again, the intro kicked in, and I thought it might just be, a little chromatic thing. Let's pepper it in the intro. That became a huge part of the song. And I like the bluesy, playful feel. Heavy guitars and blues scales go really well together. So all in all, I really like what I heard. Bass was really clear, audible, kind of that more modern metal picked tone. Definitely a band I'm keen on hearing again because this is right up my alley. And I think it's been a big surprise learning there's punk bands that sound just like the stuff I grew up listening to. Again, I always feel like I was just one block away for some of them. But that's been Belvedere. And thank you guys over on Patreon who voted this in first place. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please come find us over on Patreon. I do full albums, much more stuff there, lessons and such. If you're a player, if you enjoyed this, please make sure you're subscribed. I love you all, and we'll see you in the next one.